what the fair market, you know, how we come up with a price and all that other stuff as to what's a fair market purchase if like, for say, we go the route of buying the homes and turning them into open space, how do you determine, how is the price of the home determined?
Usually that would be a realtor could give you an idea. A lot of times if someone knows someone that works for a real estate agency, they might be able to help you out in developing that. But I think certainly looking at similar homes in the area and what they've sold for will give you an idea of.
So the dollar figure will come from
It's
an
market
appraisal,
driven.
a market driven.
A fair
Right.
market value
Yes.
in the area,
Okay,
Yeah.
not in a flood area, but in another area, the same type of house.
okay.
If there's still, I'll get back a sec, if there's still need for mitigation for I-93, could some of this land be used to be sold back to the state for mitigation?
It's getting into an area. I-93 is a federally
Right.
funded highway.
Right.
And FEMA will not pay for anything that can be done out of another federal program. So, I don't know if the town, and that would be something that I would have to ask FEMA because I've never had that posed. Can the town sell that property to the state, or can the town give that property to the state? As long as it's, I would imagine, as long as it's going to be used as, like a flood retention area or something like that, and it's not going to be habitable structures or an interstate going through it, then, because the whole idea is, again, so that federal dollars are never going to be spent on that property again.
Yep, okay.
So,
I'm sorry, Paul?
I just want to say, with nothing short of a time machine to go back 30-something years ago to stop this development from happening. So the point is it's here, and we need to do something about it. So I am supportive of taking this to the next step. My only concern is I know a lot of this money is federally controlled, and with recent events in places like Iowa, is that going to suck a lot of the funding? If there's 150 million spread across the whole country, are we going to see the majority of those funds going towards those areas and maybe see some of the funding dry up for places like New Hampshire?
well, actually, we've seen, especially even through Katrina, that, those states that were affected they were so busy with what they had doing that they were not getting applications in for the grant programs. And again, there's another grant program that's disaster related, and that's the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, which is driven by presidentially declared disasters. FEMA actually gives the declared state 15% over and above what the total disaster cost is. So in a case of like Katrina or what they're facing in the Midwest, you're looking at them, billion-dollar disasters. They're receiving, millions and millions of dollars in hazard mitigation grant funds that are specifically allocated to those states. So even today in the national evaluation, they're not seeing applications from Louisiana, and if they are, they're very rare, to see something. So to take away from New Hampshire, I don't think, we'll see that. And again, it's before Congress right now to increase that funding from its 100 to 150 million to about 250 million. So if that goes through, there'll be even more projects to be funded.
Has, to follow up on his question, since you're on it, has the state, have you seen this successfully done in places like Allenstown and others that have been, had the major flooding over the last few years?
This is actually our first year that we're going to be working, the first year we're going to be working in acquisition programs. We're currently right now working on acquiring several repetitively flooded mobile homes out of a park. We're going to be working in another town doing neighborhood acquisitions and things like that. So this is the first time this is the first year that we've had successful applications in the acquisition realm, which is good to see. I do have about, 4 other communities now that are looking to apply this year, so.
Paul, you done?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let Brian go next.
Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't have anything, I was done.
Oh, I
I
thought you
mean,
did. Okay.
Paul and I, what we were discussing was we were looking on the GIS map, and it's very telling that there's conservation land protecting Black Brook on this side, and then there's conservation land all on the side of Beaver Brook, and they're like this lone peninsula sticking out in the middle of.
Well, that bears some reasonableness to the corridor type of thought process where, by removing those houses, you're opening up animal corridors and a lot of, I hate to say it, but positive benefit to your situation if this is the way we go to resolve it.
And with the houses that would be raised in this program, it would also help a little bit with us, the houses that stay, that there's water that's going to be flowing somewhere
Where?
down there as well.
Right.
It's important that we're here today really to get this application going, because there is a deadline for it.
What is the deadline?
I haven't set the deadline for local applications as of yet, but it's probably going to be sometime mid-November, because in mid-December, the state application, which all the local application gets attached to, has to be into FEMA by December 19th.
So, do you want, Dave, before we do the application, should we have more workshops, or is it that you feel we should put the application?
Well, we're looking for authorization just to proceed and look at preparing applications. Then we want to be in a position to come back to the council with an application and include an estimated cost and the town's share, how to essentially pay for the local share with as many soft dollars as possible. And at that point, we'd be looking for concurrence and direction from the council and authorization to apply.
I say let's try for the application. My opinion is for the,
Do have some
move forward.
questions, Marty,
Yeah, I know.
Mike, it
I'm going to
is.
let you, Mike. Your turn, Mike.
if that's okay.
Please do.
Sure.
Yeah. So just a couple questions, because we need to kind of have a broad perspective on this type of thing, because we run into a relatively recent situation with what I'll call a developer-inflicted problem onto a local group of homeowners, and they came to the town to kind of get out of that situation. That was up in Parish Hills. I'm not saying this is similar at all, but the same thought process needs to be out there, particularly with press in the room writing articles. This does appear to be, as Paul said, a 30-year-old problem. How have, without getting into personal stuff, how has this been handled from your homeowner's insurance policy, given that it's chronic? Like, you can kind of calculate it's going to happen.
The
How does
homeowner
that get
insurance
handled?
doesn't, it's flood insurance.
So flood insurance.
When I moved to Brookview Drive, it was an obligation of my mortgage to have flood insurance. It was a
Okay.
condition.
Yep.
Now, the previous owners were flooded, I don't know how many times, whatever, but, they told me I was in a flood zone B, which is not at risk.
Okay.
Now, in 10 years, I've gone from a flood zone B to a flood zone X, which is
Yeah.
the most risk, which my flood insurance was $256 a year. Now it's $1,200 a year.
Okay. So you got the heads up you were supposed to get when you bought the house?
Sort of.
Okay, all right.
Sorta. Not,
Okay.
not in the severity that it's been happening in the last 10 years, which I think is because of the new development that's been
Okay.
going on.
So this flood insurance is what you guys are using to kind of bridge that
Right.
gap? Okay.
Can we hear from a couple of other people who want to contribute to that answer?
Come up to the microphone and please state your name and where you live, please.
I just had one other question after that.